Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing into a corporate forensic mystery that is, honestly, absolutely fascinating. We're looking at a case where a seemingly harmless administrative update was actually a smokescreen for a highly targeted attack. And right at the center of this entire cover-up, a meeting invite that completely vanished. If you've ever had that gut feeling that office politics were playing out right under your nose, hidden in boring paperwork and deleted calendar events, well, this explainer is going to completely change how you look at your inbox. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with this chillingly accurate axiom from the strategy lead on this case, Maya Carter. The dangerous documents never look dangerous first. It just perfectly sets the stage for what we're looking at today. You see, this specific office had recently gone through a major culture reform. They had finally learned to properly name and credit work out loud. But here's the thing. When you force a toxic culture to be accountable, that toxicity doesn't just pack up and leave. No way. It adapts. It starts hiding in the most mundane, boring places possible. Section 1. The quiet punishment. When old habits learn to whisper. Right, so after the company was forced to credit work properly, the bad actors realized they couldn't just openly steal credit anymore. So their old habits learned to whisper. Enter the concept of quiet punishment. As defined here, it's basically retaliation disguised as a standard administrative procedure or a routine process update. The ultimate goal? To secretly target specific employees without ever actually raising a voice. Management realized they couldn't just yell or fire people without cause anymore, so they reached for the boring administrative tools instead. And in this case, the weapon of choice was a sudden budget freeze. Leadership trotted out this shiny presentation, framing the freeze as a gentle, harmless, fresh start. They literally billed it as an efficiency update. But tucked inside that shiny document was a trap. We're going to see exactly how Maya and her team looked right past the polite, polished reassurance in the room to find the truth. Because this freeze, it was quietly, meticulously designed to target and hamstring the very audit team that had forced the company to be transparent in the first place. Section 2. Building the proof map. Systems over panic. So how do you fight back against a ghost? Well, instead of panicking or getting emotional, Maya's team relied on cold, hard systems. She calls this her proof map methodology. When leadership insists an update is just a routine change, you don't argue with their tone. You build an irrefutable, step-by-step path from the action straight back to the owner. Maya breaks it down into 5 steps. Identify the object, find the owner, check the timestamp, look for the missing approval, and finally, assess the public risk. Individually, yeah, these are just boring metadata points, but together, they form an inescapable web that catches the lie. Which brings us to Sofia, the operations coordinator. While senior leaders were giving the team these friendly little warnings, basically saying, hey, let's not reopen old wounds, just drop it, Sofia did the exact opposite. Because she wasn't entrenched in that old toxic culture, she used her fresh perspective to look at the skipped details. She opened the properties panel, dug into the activity tab, read the attached notes. Literally the exact things senior people usually ignore. She started asking the crucial questions. Who actually changed this document, and who gained power when it changed? Now, here is where it gets incredibly juicy. Invisible background work always leaves foreground records. Nina, the executive assistant, brings the absolute receipts to prove this. Leadership tried to claim this budget freeze was just an isolated, innocent administrative error. But Nina pulls the calendar exports, and what does she find? The vanished meeting invite. Leadership had literally deleted the invites and erased the meeting schedule to hide who secretly plotted the freeze. But she pulls the saved drafts, the meeting notes, the forwarding trails. These background records provided the exact context needed to prove that a secret meeting did happen, exposing a highly deliberate, coordinated pattern. Section 3, the audit sequence. Truth is a timeline. This is where the investigation just blows wide open. IT audit specialist Jordan Price restores the raw digital footprints, proving that truth isn't magic, it's a timeline. He pulls the actual audit logs that mathematically prove that vanished meeting invite existed. We see the exact timeline. In minutes, the owner field was changed. Hours later, the timestamp was manipulated. Over days, the access path to the document was narrowed to lock people out. And finally, over weeks, HR manager Linda uncovers the smoking gun. The approval route for this quote-unquote routine budget freeze actively bypassed the independent trust committee entirely. You don't accidentally bypass oversight and delete meeting invites through a series of innocent edits. Section 4. The polite excuses. Erasing the evidence with polish. So, faced with the audit logs, how does the old corporate culture respond? They fight back politely. They try to use soft, polished corporate language to somehow erase the undeniable metadata. It's wild to look at the two realities happening in the exact same room. On one side, the official explanation is full of buzzwords. Alignment, efficiency, leadership presence, team outcome. Sounds totally reasonable, right? But contrast that with the system reality. An excluded committee, targeted punishment, erased names, and unapproved changes. Every single time leadership tried to use a polished phrase, the audit team forced it to stand right next to a cold, hard timestamp. And that leads to a massive turning point for the team. Analyst Aisha Morgan drops the incredibly uncomfortable question you see right here. Who benefits if this stays classified as harmless? Bam! That single question completely collapses all the vague, polite excuses. It forces the whole room to admit a profound truth about workplace dynamics. Office lies only survive when the beneficiary remains hidden. The moment you ask who actually benefits from a rushed, quote, harmless process change or a deleted meeting invite, the real motives become glaringly obvious.
Section 5. Fixing the workflow. Writing repair into the system.
All right, so the trap is completely exposed. But catching the lie isn't enough. The team has to actually fix the workflow. They have to pivot from discovery to systemic repair. And this quote from Maya Carter is absolutely essential. Do not quietly fix what can publicly teach. Management desperately wanted to do a private fix. You know the drill. A quiet email, a minor background revision, maybe a secret apology behind closed doors. But the team flatly refused a silent patch. Why? Because a private repair makes managers comfortable, sure, but it leaves future employees completely exposed to the exact same trap. If the erasure was public, the correction must be public too. So, to ensure a cover-up like this never happens again, independent board member Elise and the committee write these concrete actions directly into the workflow. Look at these. They're all strong action verbs. Preserve, notify, correct, attach, name, audit. They restructure the system so it has to leave undeniable footprints. They prove that a workplace only truly changes when the most powerful people in the room are held to the exact same strict, auditable policy as everyone else. A system that can simply hide who built the work or delete the meeting where the work was planned isn't a fair system at all. And here is the tangible, real-world result of all that effort: the corrected record. Sophia's name is permanently restored right beside the work she actually did. Seeing her name properly credited proves that naming work correctly isn't just some nice administrative courtesy to make people feel warm and fuzzy. It is literally the foundation of a safe and honest workplace. It sends a clear message to all employees that their effort actually has a home, and their contributions cannot be quietly deleted by someone higher up the chain. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to focus on this incredibly powerful takeaway. The record did not raise its voice. It simply waited for someone patient enough to read it. In a toxic environment, you do not need to shout to get accountability. True accountability doesn't require a screaming match when you have meticulously preserved the evidence. Whether it's a deleted meeting invite or a changed document owner, the truth rarely arrives as a dramatic speech. It almost always arrives as a timestamp. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to consider about your own office dynamics. Is your workplace fixing problems silently to protect the powerful or publicly to protect the process? Think about that the next time a sudden, highly polished efficiency update rolls across your desk. I highly encourage you to examine the logs and the skip details behind your next seemingly boring administrative update. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the record and never ever be afraid to ask who benefits.